channel back ever. Shut your mouth, you know. When man talk, don't open your mouth.
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. If for the first time you come across this channel, remember to subscribe, like and also comment. Today I would like to talk about gender-based violence. Um, Gender-based violence is a global problem. Uh, it affects the families, communities, and the entire nation. In Jamaica, this issue has sparked a conversations from the government, from civil system and justice system. But my question is, how is gender-based violence is dealt with in Jamaica? So guys, let's have a look on this clip, then I'll come up with more reaction.
Sometimes him beat me in front of the picnic them.
There is no excuse for abuse, and the government has implemented a plan with the hope of beating domestic violence out of the country. Data on gender-based violence says much. In Jamaica, 1 in every 4 women is abused. Globally, 1 in every 3 women is a victim. Coupled with that, domestic violence has no regard for age or status. Men are also victims, so too girls as young as age 15, who are being physically, sexually, and emotionally abused in intimate partner relationships. With year-on occurrences of all forms of gender-based violence, the government has been courting several plans to eliminate the act. Finally, a perfect relationship has been formed and has given birth to a 10-year plan for ending this cowardly act. The National Strategic Action Plan to Eliminate Gender-Based Violence in Jamaica, NSAP-GBV for short.
The period is 2017 to 2027, 2017 to 2027. And that plan is predicated on the due diligence framework, which allows us to have 5 strategic priority areas. Do we engage key stakeholders so that they become a part of the solution and not a part of the problem?
A major component of the prevention strategic area is the implementation of a No Excuse for Abuse social media-driven campaign.
We are very fortunate to have been blessed with a 3-year MOU through our partner, UN Women, that will allow us to do a 6-month campaign. We think that this campaign should make a huge difference, and we plan to have it rolled out in a very robust manner across communities and engaging different players at different times. One strategic priority area is protection. That looks at how do we ensure that once the person becomes a victim, there is the adequate provision for shelter, there is provision for psychosocial support and rehabilitation. How do we look at the perpetrator as well?
The third priority strategic area covers the investigation, prosecution, and enforcement of court orders.
So once a person has been a victim, becomes a victim, what sort of mechanisms are in place to ensure that the victim gets redress and gets compensation if that is what is required? And if there is a protection order that is required, how do we ensure that the protection order is taken out and that it is enforced? And if there is an issue with compliance, which happens in some cases, where the perpetrator decides to violate the protection order, how do we ensure that it is enforced? And how do we ensure that the victim has protection? The 4th strategic priority area looks at compensation, reparation, and redress. How do we ensure that victims and survivors have adequate compensation for redress for wrongs that have been done? And how do we compensate? What forms of redress are appropriate? What is affordable given our limited fiscal space? The 5th and final strategic priority area is data collection and the systems by which we have a management of data. Gone are the days where persons talk from their heads about gender-based violence, because we now have a survey findings, a set of survey findings that's put together in a report. It's called the Women's Health Survey, and that survey for us is very important.
Released in 2017, the Women's Health Survey was conducted by the Inter-American Development Bank, UN Women, and the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. It provides facts, not anecdotal information, about the violence some persons face. Eliminating gender-based violence will not be a band-aid fix. With the help of local and international partners, government has crafted a research-driven program to involve major stakeholders. The goal is simple yet revolutionary: to bring an end once and for all to this scourge that has crippled families and impacted our country psychologically and financially.
Welcome back to Daytime Live. Now we're joined by Antoinette Hines of Girls Who Know JA, who's here to talk about their sexual harassment summit happening from July 22nd, that's tomorrow, until the 24th. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
I'm
Thank
here
you for
this
having
topic.
me.
I'm here for the summit.
Oh, wonderful.
Here for it. So,
tell us about Girls JA, Girls Who Know
Girls
JA.
Who Know. Okay, so
when was it set up and the mandate?
Okay, no problem. So Girls Who Know JA, we are a grassroots female empowerment organization. We started in 2017, so we're gonna be almost 3 years this year. And our mandate is really just to empower and to educate young girls and women about their sexual and reproductive health rights. That's it, point blank. So,
period. Point blank, period. Love it.
yes, yeah, that's pretty much what we are, what we're about, all about female empowerment, all about advocating for female rights and, looking out for the best interests of our young women and girls.
So women and girls have been speaking up more, but not enough. Is this why you guys decided to start this particular?
Yes, that's actually what triggered our interest in launching this summit. There was a huge debate on Twitter some weeks ago, different females sharing their experiences, their ages with sexual harassment and sexual assault. And to us, it was good to see that kind of collective engagement and discussion about the topic, but it was also heartbreaking to know how many girls have experienced it. And then, that coupled with what was going on with the Joint Select Committee and the discussion around the sexual harassment bill, the laughter,
the dismissiveness of it all. Silly women.
Exactly. So, the combination of those two things kind of inspired us to do this summit. We definitely think that the public needs to be educated more on what the sexual harassment bill is, what it does, how it relates to you as a man or a woman, and, just how you can play your part in combating sexual harassment in Jamaica, and not only in the workplace.
But everywhere.
So,
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm here for that. I often feel that a lot of persons don't know what sexual harassment is, because we think if somebody's not, then it's not sexual harassment. Like, you don't realize that sometimes as a woman, like when you're getting on the bus and somebody will drag you, and, that is it. Or a friend of yours will hug you and do, you're like, we're not really clear. So I'm really, really, really happy about this initiative.
Yes.
So for those people watching, where virtually will it be taking place?
Okay,
and, what will we be learning?
We are streaming we're streaming on both Facebook and YouTube. So there's a link in our bio across all our social media platforms at Girls Who Know JA on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. There's a link in our bio. You'd click that link and you'd register for the summit. And when we kickstart tomorrow, it's gonna be streaming on Facebook and YouTube. So for the 3 days, we are covering 3 specific themes. The first day will cover public education on the law surrounding sexual violence. The second day will be tackling gender inequality. And the final day, we'll be looking at digital advocacy and strategy. So, we have a very impactful, dynamic, fun conversation that we want to have with, young people, Gen Zers, millennials.
Some old people need to learn too.
Definitely. And the mature folk, for sure.
Mature folk.
I'm calling myself
people.
old people,
Mature
but
folk.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes,
some
yes,
of us
yes.
don't really know what.
Who are some of your speakers?
Yes, so some of our speakers will be Dr. Terry Carell Reed, that everyone knows and loves. We also have Professor Opal Adisa from the Institute of Gender and Development Studies at the UWI. We have Melissa Sims, Dr. Margot Thomas, and these are just industry leaders, experts, allies, change makers in the gender space that have obviously knowledge and expertise in the different themes. So
Excellent.
I think a huge part of discussions like these, it's about how it is at you and what it is that you can do. Because you talk about
Yes.
sexual harassment, right? Because it's about, when you talk about sexual harassment, it's normally what men do to women, or how men treat women.
Yeah.
What about how women treat men?
yeah, definitely.
Is that something
it
that
goes, yes, definitely,
because
for sure.
we harass we too.
Yeah, we do.
And,
it goes both
if we
ways.
speak up about it, it's like we are.
No, I'm
goes-
joking. I'm really joking because I think that's a thing, and I think we should talk about that too.
Definitely. It goes both ways. I think what happens a lot, though, is that people are more quick to attack men because of the frequency of the sexual harassment cases. So, very little you hear a woman harassing a man, but very much you hear a woman being harassed by
Could
a
it be
man.
that women speak out more?
It could be that as well, definitely. It could be that as well, because we know
yeah.
that
Men
men
don't want
have
to
that
say
issue.
that,
with
come on,
coming
man,
up.
man don't
right,
get,
exactly.
so that kind of
exactly.
toxic
But
masculinity.
we,
we're talking about.
as girls who know, we don't support that double standard behavior. So we
Nice.
definitely want to get the message both to men and women, talk about how women are harassed just as the same, men are harassed as well.
What about having a male's perspective in some way, shape, or form? Because I have sisters. I still have my mom. I have a daughter. You understand? I think my best friend is a female.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of women around me.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like summits like these and discussions
Yeah,
like these,
we
it's mostly
actually-
women, and you don't have the involvement
We have
of
men on the panel. So for the first day, as it relates to the laws around sexual violence, we have legal expert Christopher Harper, who will be breaking down the bill and helping us to understand what the laws actually mean, what is actually tabled in the legislation, and how it relates to you. And we also have a change maker and ally in the game, Chad Rattree, who is a youth parliamentarian, I believe.
Yeah.
Who will be sharing, giving us youth perspectives on the topic as well. So
I love that.
yeah.
I just want to jump in here, my perspective. I saw a meme that says, stop teaching our girls how to not get raped.
Yeah.
And start teaching our boys
Yes,
not to rape.
not to rape.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the conversations that women are having, I hear a lot of men saying, a lot of guys saying, I didn't know that was offensive. I didn't know that she took that away. A lot of times it's ignorance because you don't know
Exactly.
if we're not saying like,
Yes.
actually that makes me
Yes.
uncomfortable. Actually,
Yes.
it's not. Sometimes you don't know,
Yes.
so it's like an
Yes.
education for men
Yes.
and women. So all of us
Definitely.
need to be in this together to find the way that everybody is comfortable and knowledgeable and
Yes.
informed
Right.
as to where, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I like that.
Definitely.
Interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I don't believe that all men are malicious and really intently try to do these
Whoa,
things.
men.
So,
No joking.
or
Men.
women,
Men,
or
whoa,
women.
men, whoa.
I know what you mean.
How can
2
we quickly,
seconds, yeah.
quickly, how can we find, or where can we find you on social media?
At Girls Who Know JA on on all Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also visit our website, which is girlswhoknowja.org. Check us out. Join us if you
so
wish.
impressed. Thank you
Register
so
for the
much.
summit.
Thank you
Yes.
guys. It starts tomorrow, Girls Who Know. July 22nd. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I love it. Oh my goodness, that's the end of the
Awesome.
show. That's the end of the show. Please remember to check on your loved ones and to support each other as a community. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Hello and welcome to another edition of All Angles. I'm Jodie Ann Quarry sitting in for Dion Jackson Miller. A special welcome to those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com. We've been hearing the story of Kenise Jackson, the 20-year-old accounting clerk who went missing last Wednesday morning after leaving home for work. Her body was found 2 days later on Friday at the Portmore fishing village in St. Catherine. She'd been sexually assaulted. A man known to her, someone who lived in her community, 50-year-old mechanic Robert Fowler, has since been charged for her murder. Kenise's death has reignited the conversation on the cycle of gender-based violence in Jamaica and the killing of our women. There's also been a call for women to be able to arm and protect themselves against violence using guns, mace, and pepper spray. Some, however, argue that the call for weapons misses the mark and once again leaves women alone to protect themselves instead of creating a culture and a society that keeps them safe. On top of all of that, there are seemingly hundreds of women and girls who go missing every single year in this country, and some have still not been found. So, how do we make the country safer for women and girls? And how can we make it safer for everyone? Can it even be done? And are things getting better or are they getting worse? Get involved in tonight's conversation with our hashtag TVJAllAngles. It's going to be a difficult topic, but one you have to join in on. This evening, we have a panel of experts who will be answering the questions we've asked and more. But before that, Kalisha Williams will help us understand just how far-reaching this problem is with this overview.
Kenise Jackson, abducted and killed. The name many Jamaicans will not soon forget.
Kenise was our living angel. That is God blessing to me, her mom, her family, everybody we should touch. That was a blessing from God.
Jasmine Dean, the case of the missing US student, still a mystery.
We hope that some mercy could reach the hearts of those who have her in their captive, if that is the case, to release her.
These stories opened old wounds in recent times, highlighting a decades-old problem. 2002, 2004, 2009, 2010, 2015, 2017. Year after year, more and more girls and women go missing. And like Kenise Jackson, many have been found dead. But like clockwork, efforts to make the country safer for all remain a pipe dream. Portia Simpson Miller in 2012.
We cannot drop the ball. We have to continue the process of ensuring the things to be done for the protection of women and girls.
That same year, then Minister of Youth and Culture Lisa Hanna was among a group that marched on the capital city after 5 females, including an 8-year-old, were raped in less than a week.
So we're calling on the nation at this time to report. We're asking children, we're going into communities, and we will not stop our efforts until child abuse and sexual abuse is stamped out of this country.
Now, Gender Minister Olivia Grange in Parliament on Tuesday.
To what extent does the continuation of this hostility speak to collective failure on our part in this House and on the part of the whole society, Madam Speaker? If we all cannot protect our women and girls, our most vulnerable, from such horrible acts of violence, how do we even see ourselves as a civilized society?
But this is not unique to Jamaica. Gender-based violence is a worldwide issue. Recently in the UK, the death of Sarah Everard, who was murdered while walking home from work, sparked protests in that country. According to the United Nations, 243 million women and girls aged 15 to 49 experienced sexual and or physical violence by an intimate partner in 2019 alone. But since the COVID-19 pandemic, violence against women and girls has intensified. Kalisha Williams for All Angles.
Thanks, Kalisha. Now joining me for this discussion this evening are Dr. Sapphire Longmore, President of the Jamaica Psychiatric Association and sitting government senator; Nastasia Robinson, Legal Officer at Jamaicans for Justice; Joy Crawford, Executive Director at E for Life; and Sharon Robinson, Senior Director at the Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. Welcome. Conversations about issues like the killing of women happen often. You saw in that overview done by Kalisha that we've had this conversation year in, year out. Nastasia Robinson, you represent an organization that continues to have conversations about violence against women. What has JFJ seen over the years with this issue?
You know, Jody, just yesterday I was saying that, you know, we've spoken so much about this. Every time another young woman is missing or is killed, the conversation happens. It's loud. We do this, and then, you know, it's almost like the country goes back into a slumber until another woman is killed. At Jamaicans for Justice, and I'm sure at Joy can attest to the experience at E for Life as well. The complaints of violence against women and young girls is something that we get every single day. It is so much so that previously JFJ it's not an area that JFJ usually used to focus on, but because of the prevalence of the issue, we decided last year that it is definitely an area of law that we needed to take on. So it's now, since last year, one of our main focuses. And, you know, we started last year, and the amount of reports, the stories that we've heard, the matters that we've had to sit in, they've been extremely exhausting and disheartening. And it's almost from where I'm sitting, and it's very disheartening. That's the only word that I can say right now. And if you're not careful, you kind of get discouraged. But you can't, because a lot of these young girls who are suffering, they really have no refuge, and so we have to continue to provide the services that is necessary to them.
Many of these young men don't have refuge. Joy Crawford, E for Life, and organizations like yours provide very limited refuge for these women, whether it is counseling and support or maybe a place to put them. But the issue of violence against women is much larger than your organization may be able to handle. What kind of needs come to you?
Okay, thank you. The question about needs, you know, I like where Nastasia started, because we're in the care business, the care and service part of the work, and it is extremely difficult just even to listen to the overview that came on before us and know that I experience this on a daily basis with a number of women and families. It's you know, it's discouraging in some way, because it's been so long coming, to the point where I'd love us to be able to communicate that one of the greatest need right now that we have is to have real action. You know, every time we have the loud speaking and the 9-day wonder, my girls now says a 3-day, it hurts survivors who are still alive. They lose hope, they get angry, they relive their own trauma. We have to turn up the amount of counseling that we do. It just really has greater effect than we see just in the media. And so I think what we need more than anything else to move forward is clear, decisive, and there are some very clear gaps that we've been talking about for years. You know, issue with justice, issue with the law, issue with protection orders, issues with community mobilization, issues of really desensitizing and stop normalizing intergenerational relationship for the young girls. issue of just how even now in every time this happens, there's this constant debate about who is to be blamed and the re-victimization of victims and the discrimination when we're alive and when we die. So all of those things are very clearly articulated over the years, but we really haven't had any sustained real change in this. And I think that there's a misunderstanding about the real cause of gender-based violence. We're focused a lot on what we call the contributing factors, but it's really about human rights. It's about femininity and masculinity being seen as human and equal. It's about power and how do we address the issue of power and gender inequality. And so we have to call spade spade. But action, what we need now is just real sustained. I rather use it sustained. We cannot take another going through 4 or 5 weeks and then we're back to normal. It really hurts the survivors who are still around.
Survivors are hearing these conversations. Survivors are reopening wounds, their own wounds, as they deal with the traumas that they would have endured. But Dr. Sapphire Longmore, you're president of the Jamaica Psychiatric Association and also a sitting government senator. And there has been a discussion that says men don't just kill women in the case that we've seen of Kenise Jackson or in the case of Ananda Dean, missing persons like Jasmine Dean who have been affected here in Jamaica. They don't just kill women or abuse women or attack women. They work up to it. They are doing other things that are antisocial bits of behavior that then allow them to get to that point. Are we to consider this situation here in Jamaica, violence against women, to be a mental illness?
I think there's probably no other way to classify it as such. It is an understatement in my mind to say that these persons who perpetuate these acts are mentally ill. We have many dispositions regarding personality disorders, and what you're seeing is almost a profile of psychopaths and antisocial personality disordered persons. But what you're seeing is also the criminality manifesting as possibly serial offenders. And it begs to, in terms of trying to track down and creating profiles of these persons who commit these acts. These individuals don't just decide to go out and target someone. There is usually a history that tends to be common in these persons. There is usually behavior and predisposing factors that you can see and almost predict certain behavior. What is unfortunate, though, is that the violence that we're seeing against women is a manifestation of the violence also in the society. It is a sad reality that we have to deal with some of the crimes in a small, a beautiful country that Jamaica is. But COVID has also added to the stresses that existed before. So unfortunately, it is heartbreaking to see it, but it is not too shocking because there were warning signs before. There were indicators that it could happen. And unfortunately, those indicators still exist.
Unfortunately, those indicators still exist, and we'll pick up after the break as we take our first break inside TVJ All Angles. Remember, our hashtag is TVJ All Angles. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The findings from the Gender Assessment Report are commensurate with the community outreach focus of the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the lived experiences of numerous families. The report highlights data produced from the Bureau of Gender Affairs and Statin, which show that 1 in every 4 Jamaican women experience physical violence from a male partner. It also shows that young women, 15 to 24 years, are vulnerable to sexual violence, and this is among girls/women with little to no education and who live with their partners from an early age. It also identified that victims/survivors of GBV and their children tend to experience worse educational and health outcomes in their lifetime. A very practical response to the gender-based violence prevalence data is the development of the draft National Shelter Strategy. Through the implementation of the strategy, we launched what we call the Continuum of Care for Survivors of Gender-Based Violence. And this clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities of the participating organizations or agencies to ensure the seamless process for care of the victims. A memorandum of understanding was signed between specific ministries, departments, and agencies to aid in this initiative. So from the moment we get the call through to taking that victim or survivor to a safe place, there is a seamless pathway between the agencies and the entities that are involved in that process. The Bureau of Gender Affairs is in partnership with the Spotlight Initiative to coordinate the implementation of the National Shelter Strategy. The first national government-owned and operated shelter in the Northeast region and a regional shelter in the Eastern region to provide rescue, psychosocial support, restoration, and skills building. The next would be renovation and retrofitting of 1 additional property to serve as a Western regional shelter. And I'm really happy to announce that the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service has allocated $50 million to complete the renovation and retrofitting of this regional shelter in the West for victims and survivors of gender-based violence. And we should have that shelter ready sometime late this year. Revision of the Domestic Violence Act to provide increased support to victims and survivors. That's another area, and I am happy to report that we signed off on the final drafting of the amendments to the Domestic Violence Act, and we will be taking it to Parliament in the first quarter of the 2023-24 fiscal year. So we will have those amendments come into effect early this year. We're going to be ramping up the community outreach through Partnership for Empowerment initiative to provide financial support to NGOs and community advocacy groups as partners to address GBV. And so far, we have 16 partners across the island, and they also form that network that help us to ensure that we can protect our women. Development of knowledge products on gender-based violence is another area. So we have prepared information in Braille for the blind and voice training for empowerment and self-efficacy skills. We'll also establish gender-based violence helplines. The helpline unit is actually up and running, and the training of social workers and counselors.
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope you have watched the full clip and you have seen how people react about gender-based violence in the world. Now, gender-based violence includes physical, emotional, sexual, and economic abuse, mainly affecting women and girls. And nowadays, boys and men are also involved. So, mainly now it has affected both the gender. We have male and female. They are recovering because they have left out. We have things that they have made men have been left out, and also women have been left out. And so, guys, I would like to talk about today what are some of the criteria that the government of Jamaica has put in place so that they can be able to control this pandemic, this problem of this GBV or gender-based violence. First and foremost, we have seen that in Jamaica they have raised strong local and legal protections. This strong local and legal protection have provided in Jamaica so that they can protect their citizens who are involved in the abuse. They help in recording the statement. They help in looking under the mother so that it also it also helps the victim so that they cannot be involved. Actually, we have an act or a legislation that they have enacted, which is to make domestic violence and something there. They have enacted that act so that it will help. If you broke the law, you are dealt with by the law. So that legal protection have helped to reduce gender-based violence in Jamaica. And we have also the role of the police and court. The police have put in place, and we have a police unit that has been trained to deal with domestic and gender-based violence in Jamaica, which I hope the whole world should also learn from that, because I have seen in most parts of of Africa and across the world, they don't have the special unit dealing with this issue. So we have seen Jamaica has put in place that unit so that it also helps to record the statement, to keep the evidence, so that if you are being taken to the court, you'll be summoned. And this has helped to make sure that gender-based violence is being dealt with in Jamaica very well. And we have support system and survivors. Those who have been involved have been supported, and they come in Jamaica. We have seen there are some of the bodies, some of the organizations have set in place so that they help in supporting the survivors so that they can help them. And also we have seen they have those bodies, those organizations, they have said that so that they can also teach and also to make sure that this issue of gender-based violence is being dealt with in Jamaica. And we have also education and prevention. Actually, I have seen that most parts of Jamaica, this issue is being taught in school, in communities, and we have seen public systems. We have seen, like in the media, this issue is being dealt with, and they are teaching so that they can reduce this act of violence. in Jamaica. Despite I know Jamaica might have through the criteria, actually they have succeeded, but they have not done. They have not succeeded very well. We are there, Jamaicans. We are there, my friends from across the world. I know there are some of the criteria that you might know. Just drop your comment, the comment section, and we will be able to learn from, so that we can be able to know what are some of the criteria we can use to reduce this gender-based violence, because it has been like a pandemic across the world. So if you have any issue, just drop your comment in the comment section, and I shall appreciate. Thank you guys. Let us meet the next video.